Hey guys, it's Nathan from the Rambling Rome YouTube channel. Today I'm going to take my first EV road trip in my 2022 Kia Niro EV, which I purchased in the end of 2024. I wanted to have this experience of road tripping, but I want to say up front in this video that when I was buying an EV, I did not, in my analysis, think of this car as a road tripper, but I did want to have the experience of actually doing a road trip in the EV. So our circumstances this weekend were such. Our other car is a plug-in hybrid, and my wife was actually heading out of state, and so was I. I had the shorter of the two trips to make, and so I put her in the plug-in hybrid, which is typically our road tripper. So we actually use the EV as our go-to vehicle for around town or for short day trips. And so almost always when I'm using the EV, I'm actually heading to some place that I know I can reach in the allotted range for my vehicle. And the reason I do that primarily is driven by the economy of it. Residential EV charging is a lot cheaper than driving a gasoline vehicle. But I think, as you'll see with this road trip, that's not the case when you're coming to DC fast charging. Additionally, DC fast charging can be hard on your battery. While thermal management has gotten a lot better over the years, the best way to prolong your battery life, primarily do AC charging and let your onboard charger in your vehicle change it to DC current and feed the battery that way. It's more like slow trickle charging. And of course, another strike against road tripping in an EV is the fact that the EV infrastructure is still evolving in the US. It is actually getting better all the time. You know, I'm going to be taking a rural trip driving from Frankfort, Kentucky down to a friend's house in Chattanooga for the weekend. I've gotten approval from him that I can actually do residential charging down there, so I can charge up over the weekend before I return home. So for this trip, the logistics are not super complicated, but I will be using two EV DC fast chargers that I've never been to before. And for the purposes of the planning of this trip, I've relied heavily on a Better Route Planner, which is a very popular app for road trip planning. It also offers turn-by-turn navigation, as well as the PlugShare app to kind of learn and get first-hand reviews about the infrastructure in question. So just kind of talk through some logistics. My Kia Niro EV has a 64 kilowatt hour battery. I have topped up to 100%. I've actually, in my research, I know that one of the challenges you can find with EV fast chargers is not being able to pay. A lot of times the credit card reader doesn't always work, or they may not have the tap to pay, the kind of thing. So I have gone ahead and downloaded the apps to be able to bypass that potential problem. This vehicle is estimated about 239 miles of range. I am, if you see behind me, going to be towing I've got a bike rack that I've got carrying a bicycle, and I know again from just kind of research and past experience that that'll also provide a hit to my range of about 10%. So what I've done is in the route planner, particularly in a Better Route Planner, it seems to be very nice. It actually knows when you put in your vehicle, it knows your vehicle, all kinds of specs about your vehicle. It knows kind of your estimated range, and then it actually plans your trip in a way so that you actually come in with lower amount of range. For those of you who are not familiar with this concept, actually every vehicle has a charging curve, and the lower the state of charge, the faster it actually charges, and it tends to slow down as the battery gets more full. This is not a vehicle that has a great capacity for DC fast charging. So if you were someone who were going to use your EV to do a lot of road tripping, you would want something that has a faster transfer rate. Mine only has about a 75 kilowatt transfer rate, and that's a maximum transfer rate. Most vehicles have in the neighborhood of 150 kilowatts, so about twice that, and some have much higher than that. You're like 300 plus, kilowatt, provided you can actually find the infrastructure infrastructure to do that. So we'll talk more about that as we go through this. But the estimated range, again, for my vehicle is about 200, a little under 240 miles, and I'm anticipating about a 10% hit for that. So what I did in the route planner, I'm actually starting with 100% state of charge. I actually tweaked the route planner down to 95%, telling it that I was going to start at 95%, and it was, rather than planning to arrive at 10%, which is what I kind of anticipate will be the case, I upped it to 15%. So I'm accounting for that 10% hit in the route planning experience. My vehicle's estimated range is less than my road trip today, but not by a whole lot. So I'm heading about 260 some miles, which is, again, north of my vehicle's range. So I will need to stop and DC fast charge. It has actually picked some chargers for me. I did some research. I'll say I'm really not nervous at all about the first charging station down there. It's a Rivian network, which happens to be across the road from Electrify America network that's across the road at a Sam's Club. So there's actually not one but two different charging networks to choose from. This one has 8 different charging stations, and it just happens to be lesser expensive than the Electrify America charging station. It's kind of the Wild West out here, guys, and so there is really no regulation. It's not like a gas station where you can know that in a certain location the cost of gas is going to be a certain price within a few cents per gallon of the stations around it. You can have a pretty wide swing, and we'll talk more about that as we get into Cookeville, which is going to be our stop. And then on the way back, I'm going to be a little more risky. I'm going to stop off at a visitor center in Russell Springs, where there appears to only be one working charger there. It has been used recently. A fallback would be that I would have to wait for it, or I may have to go over to Somerset if I found it's not working to the second nearest EV charger on the way back. But again, what it's doing is it's actually trying to get me in at a lower state of charge, so it actually will charge faster. Again, new territory for me. I'm a big kind of dip my foot in the water. I really don't feel very nervous about this trip, but I am looking forward to having the firsthand experience of making a road trip. And again, I invite you guys to come along with me. And if you have questions about my experience or anything I talk about in the video, please do put those in the comments. Ask your questions. Let me know if this was helpful or if you'd like to see more content like this. And if you haven't seen it already, be sure to check out the first video in this series, which goes into the top 3 reasons that I think that you should consider buying an EV, particularly if you have a multi-vehicle family. Looking forward to this trip. Come along. I am literally behind the wheel here, getting ready to start my journey, and you can see that I've actually got Waze pulled up on Apple CarPlay with the charging address entered in there. Also, I'm actually have the Better Route Planner route. I'll say that Better Route Planner does offer turn-by-turn directions. You do have to pay for the premium version in order to have that work with Apple CarPlay. It's currently like $5 a month. I did not feel like it was worth it to me because I don't anticipate doing this very often to pay for that. But I do have that pulled up. It will give me directions on my phone, and so I can kind of check, against this if I happen to be deviating from the path that it's got a sign there. You can see on the screen here that it's actually anticipating that I arrive with about 25% state of charge, and need to plan to basically about 50%. And it is started estimating my initial range to be about 255 miles. I do have the AC turned on, and I've got the AC set to 70 degrees on fan speed 1. So your climate control absolutely can impact your range. And again, we've talked about the bicycle being on the back, so that I do anticipate, that I'll chew through this at a greater rate than I would otherwise. So I'm going to set out now, and our next stop will be arriving at the charger in Cookeville. Just pulled in to the Rivian charging station here in Cookeville, Tennessee. And I wanted to kind of do a quick metrics review. I have logged 176.1 miles averaging 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour. So that is actually, I'm really very pleased with that. That is the equivalent of just under 115 miles per gallon equivalent. So really quite efficient, particularly since I've got a bike on the back. And for those of you who may have been thrown by the 255 estimated miles that were there, this is kind of it's an estimator, or a, you know, what some people call a guessometer, and it's really based upon, the car is calculating based upon your recent driving habits. So I have mostly been driving around town, which is why that number is as high as it is. Some additional road conditions, because all these things matter. It has been about 70, between 72 and now 79 degrees. So it's been nice and warm, which is really ideal for EV. Cold weather, the efficiency really kills the efficiency. And what else can I tell you? Oh, I've been averaging, the most direct route to get where I'm going is actually mostly back roads. So I've been limiting myself to no more than 5 miles over the speed limit. So in 55 mile per hour, I've been averaging about 60, and then or you know, limit no more than 60. And then there's been a few short sections where it's been 65, where I've gone 70. So to let you know about my driving habits. Arrived at this location with 20% of stated charge. The estimate was 24% on a better route planner. You know, it came in a little below that, but again, bear in mind that I actually tried to build in a buffer because I knew it was going to be less because of the bike on the back. So if I take the 176 miles, and I basically used 80% of the battery. So if I divide that by 80 and then multiply it back times 100, if I kept driving the way I did, I could figure that I would have gotten about 220 miles. And I was sort of calculating that I was going to take about a 10% hit. That is, again, my vehicle is rated to get 239 miles. That's the EPA rating on it. And I would have, at that rate, basically been to 92% of that number. So didn't end up being quite a 10% hit, ended up being more like an 8% hit. But overarching, I'm really impressed with the efficiency of this vehicle in general. So now I'm going to step out, see if I can't get charging, and I'll film the experience using a Rivian charger for the first time. All right, guys, so just to kind of give you a sense of what the charging station looks like here, I'd read that there are 8 stations, and I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they may double up. One thing that's nice about this location, and really represents a difference between going to a gas station, is you are really, there's no infrastructure here. I mean, there is, but you're relying upon what's surrounding it. So, you know, some charging stations may not have anything there. Here you've got like a Wingstop, a chicken salad chick. There's 5 Guys down there. So there's several eateries right there, and then, you know, restrooms that you could get to as well. All right, so again, I've spun up the Rivian app. All right, so we're looking at the Rivian app. Oh, it says 6 out of 6 are available, so I'm the only one here. And then it says there's a 300 kilowatt max. So I'll just say that this is way overkill for my car. All of these are 300, will produce up to 300 kilowatts. Again, I can't do more than 75, but if I were at a charging station where there were different levels of machine, I wouldn't want I would want to use whatever a lesser rated one and not take one that's capable of all this from somewhere else. In this case, there's obviously plenty of spaces, and you know, I'm not putting anybody out. So let's see what it says. So if I say plan, I am here, current location. I don't want to plan a trip. I guess I don't need to be in their trip planner. I want to use this thing. So how do I do it? How do I do it? Okay, so I got in here and it says I got to find out which one that I want, and I need a CCS charger, so hopefully I pulled up to one that is. And I've got 1A here, and 1A it is. So let's see if I can tell. That is CCS, so that's what I need. And you can, you know, definitely do a tap and pay here, but again, I didn't want to have to do that, so I can go ahead and plug this in. And I'll say this is a lot beefier than a home charging cable, and first time I've had to deal with this, and I've got too many things in my hand. Sorry, give me just a second. So I'm gonna open this up, open both of these. So the only difference between this and my home charger is this bottom section. And again, this is a big beefy cable, which is hard to manage with a camera in your hand. Okay, got that in and it clicked. So I'm at 1A and I'm gonna start the charger. I already added a payment method. This is aggravating. Okay, so I'm gonna hop off of here and add my payment method again. Okay, so I've just typed that in. It says, let's see, it says unplugged. Start time 3:59. What's going on? Unplugged, it shouldn't be unplugged. Okay, then it ran, so it, look, you see there, your purchase was for $55, so it put a hold on my card, and it did its handoff, and it is charging. And right now it's saying it's 0 kilowatts. I'm trying to figure out what's going on there. Okay, it appears to be charging. And I've got it set, you can see in the vehicle here that I've got it set to cut off at 50%. Okay, it says it's 71 kilowatts. So it's telling me on my dash what the speed is. It is not telling me in the app, which is kind of interesting. So if I want to monitor the speed, which I do, I'm interested to see how it performs. It's now telling me that it's getting 72 kilowatts. So it just took a minute for it to show up, and it has delivered almost a kilowatt hour. So yeah, we'll see how long this takes. Again, it said it started at 3:59, and I'm gonna go and visit some of the surrounding area, and we'll come back. We've already up to percent, and it's showing me that exactly what the kilowatt transfer is here on the screen, as well as my state of charge, which is pretty sophisticated. So I'm actually very pleased, because again, this vehicle maxed out at 75 kilowatts. So this is going very smoothly, lots of good infrastructure. I will say that Rivian, I believe, gives a discount to Rivian owners for the infrastructure, which, you know, makes sense. But again, the rate here, we'll see, you can see actually the session total, you can see it climbing there. So we'll do the math or look for the rate when I'm done there to see exactly how much we spent here. And to kind of put things in perspective, you know, residential, I think where this stuff really shines is when you're being able to charge at home. Where I live in central Kentucky, our average cost per kilowatt hour is in the neighborhood of about 10 cents. I think nationally, when I did my first video, it was about 16 cents. So here, I think we're going to be north of 50 cents. The DC, you know, fast chargers tend to be quite expensive and can really range quite a bit. And they get in, some people charge you an idle fee, some people charge you a fee just to get started, some people charge by the minute, which seems crazy to me, because he really, you know, that's doesn't seem fair in any way, shape, or form. But in terms of rate, you know, I mean, I've seen anywhere from like 30 cents like on the low end for DC fast charging, again upwards to north of 70 cents a kilowatt hour. So we'll check back in as we get closer to our goal here. So this is kind of fun to watch if you're geeky. It actually just a second ago reached up to 75 kilowatts, so it was maxing out. Now it's starting to drop off a little bit. at about 30% or state of charge. What was kind of interesting to note is I talked to these folks over here, and there's actually a couple of level 2 chargers, which I guess Rivian is offering for free. So if you've got, you know, time and more time that you can charge, that's they're getting actually, I think, 11 kilowatts on that Hyundai Kona EV over there, or over 11 kilowatts. So that's pretty fast for you know, alternating AC level 2 charging. All right, guys, so we are a little over 19 minutes in, 49%. Lowest I've seen that dip down to. Oh, it just cut off. The vehicle probably told it, okay, unplug the vehicle. So I'm going to say stop. So the vehicle basically killed it. So it said it reached 50%, and I need to unplug it. So I'll come back to this in just a second. Okay, so it was $13.30 for 22.9261 kilowatt hours, and it took about 19 and a half minutes, which is really not too bad. I wanted to do some math to kind of put this in perspective in terms of the cost here. So the price that I've been seeing for a gallon of gas, to provide some level of comparison, all the way down here I've been seeing $3.74 a gallon. It's recently gone up quite a lot. And to compare, to give it some standard of comparison, the car that I had originally planned to drive was our Toyota RAV4 Prime. The just the hybrid side of that, not the plug-in side of that, gets like 36 miles per gallon, which would basically be 10 cents a mile in that vehicle. By driving this car, I just paid $13.30 for 22.9261 kilowatt hours, which is 58 cents, which is what they advertise per kilowatt hour. And I know that I was averaging, according to the dashboard anyway, 3.4 miles per kilowatt hour. So if I took basically 58 cents and divide that by 3.4, it's basically 17 cents per mile. So the cost for this energy is actually a lot more expensive even than gasoline is right now. Now, having said that, EVs are far more efficient than gas. Like I said earlier, the MPGe is 114.58. So, you know, it would have to be, if I would have to multiply that, I haven't done the math here, but as efficient as the other vehicle. So the overall cost is still coming out way ahead. And the other thing to bear in mind is that I charged at home before I started. I'm going to get residential charging when I end, and I'm just going to have this in the middle. So I will revisit this at the end of the video and figure out what my cost per mile is based upon everything that I use, and kind of let you know. But I am guessing that I'm going to come out ahead even with this expensive fast charging. But just to know, you know, I am seeking to minimize my fast charging, because particularly in a situation like this, and again, this isn't even the most expensive option around, that is not cheap for the energy involved. So in terms of the distance to my destination, I've got to go another 81 miles according to Waze, and I've got 122 miles of range. So I don't expect to actually go that far, because again, because of the bike being on there, I expect the actual range to be less, but there's a buffer in there, so I feel nice and comfortable. And my goal was to arrive in the neighborhood of about 10% remaining, so we'll see what that looks like when I arrive. All right, guys, I just pulled up with 11% state of charge, 24 miles left. So that is totally acceptable, and it was good because I had some wayfinding issues with the location not being that I'm heading to not being accurately reflected by Waze. So I had a little buffer in there. That's good, but I ended up beating my average kilowatts per mile this time. So really good stuff. And I'm gonna plug in just using a regular household outlet now. And the next time you'll hear from me will be the morning where I'm getting ready to start my return trip. Guys, so I'm at the end of my stay here in Chattanooga, and I'm gonna be heading home. I have charged back up to 100% via the level 1 charger here. And you know, my guessometer is saying like 247 miles of range. Again, we know it's going to be less than that. But I've actually done the math here for Chattanooga. This month they are have a electric rate of 13.2 cents per kilowatt hour, and I ended up, you know, taking it down to 11%. So I'm trying to look at remember the math here. So there's basically 64 kilowatt hour battery divided by 100 times 11 basically means I use all but 7.04 kilowatt hours. So that is actually 56.96 kilowatt hours at that 13.2 cents would be $7.52 of residential electric. So to replenish my replenishment, because I averaged the 3.5 kilowatts coming all the way down here, or 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour, it's like 4 cents a mile. So you can see a dramatic difference between residential charging and DC fast charging. So I'm heading to Lake Cumberland Visitor Center, where they have, I believe, 2 DC fast chargers. I think maybe only one is working. So the next stop will be at that DC fast charger. Plan on arriving there with maybe a little over 20% stated charge. Some idea about the surrounding area. Here is the visitor center, and I think there's a Arby's over there. And then on the other side of this parking lot is a Kentucky Fried Chicken. So there are places where you can get food and use the bathroom. There are 2 DC fast chargers here. The screen is dark on the one on the left, and I knew about that via the PlugShare app. So I'm going to come over here, and I did go through the process of downloading the app already, and I can't remember. Oh, it's Epic Charging. So you can get that. It's going to prompt you to do that on the on this, or it does have a credit card reader. I will say that the credit card probably would have been faster at the Rivian app than using the app, but just for, you know, again, I've read and seen in videos where people have had a hard time with that. So I am going to pull up the Epic Charging app that I've already got installed on my phone, and you can also see the standard fee here is 25 cents per kilowatt hour, which is about as cheap as DC fast charging comes, and that is probably because of this partnership that exists with the power company here, plus sales tax of 6%. So and then I guess there's a excise fee and some school tax as well. So it's going to be 30 something cents by the time it's all said and done. But we'll get to take a look at there. I pulled up my charge. You can see that it sees 2 chargers here, and it's got EV1 and EV2. It says EV2 is unavailable, so I'm guessing that that is the charger to my left with the dark screen, so it's actually offline. And so I'm going to go with EV1, which is a 180 kilowatt charger. So, you know, if you've got the capacity with a higher top charging speed than that, that is well above my 70 watt kilowatt transfer speed. So I'm going to hit this, and it looks like they offer both a CCS plug and a Chattanooga plug, and I can't really tell by looking. I'm going to assume kind of by the shape of the head that this is the of the plug, that this is our CCS, and they're showing it as on the left, so maybe that's right as well. So I'm going to select that, and it's not giving me an option to start charging. So what do I do? Interesting. So I'm trying to select that. It says available. to get started, ready to charge, plug in. Okay, so maybe that's my issue. So I have not plugged in. Again, this is all kind of new territory for me as far as fast charging. That was actually true with the Rivian thing as well. So yeah, there's our CCS plug, and we'll see if I can do this one-handed. This is a big bulky plug compared to what you deal with at home, and this is hard to do, especially with a camera in your hand. So I'm probably okay, let's see. Feels like it's latched into place. Okay, now it's saying connecting to vehicle. So I bet, how would you like to pay? Pay with app. All right, so let's try this again. We'll scan the QR code. Well, let me just go to the app again. All right, EV1 available, selected. It does give me the button this time to say start charging. So that was my problem, is I wasn't actually plugged in. It says communicating with vehicle. I can hear it starting to charge up. It's gonna do its little handshake, and here's my meter that it's given me. And I guess once it starts charging, this will start moving. And then also on my dash, the lights will light up. So it's, you know, it's basically trying to do that handshake right now. And it's starting. It says perfect, your vehicle is charging, and I'm seeing it here. It sees that it's got 37% state of charge. There's 37% state of charge there. And it is flashing on my dash, which actually shows me that it is charging. So I'm gonna run next door, use the restroom, come back in a few minutes and see how our charge is progressing. And I set my vehicle to cut off at 50%. We're about 7 minutes in to the charging. It was sitting at about 56 kilowatts. And so my initial thought was that it was actually gonna be charging at a slower rate, but now it is definitely peaking out. Like I said, it's only rated at like 75 kilowatts, so it's, you know, it's at that or above that according to this machine. And 45%, I'm only trying to get to 50, 8 minutes in, so, you know, I'd say in the next few minutes should be done. All right, this app seems to be pretty darn responsive. You can see on the screen it says 49%, app showing 49%. It's the cost so far is $3.05. And it just cut off, that came from the vehicle. So it's basically at $3.42. It's saying 49%. The vehicle, basically, if I set it to 50, it's like right when it hits 50, it cuts it off. But we added a total of 11.0353 kilowatts. To do some quick math here, $3.42 divided by 11.063 kilowatt hours is the amount of electricity that I put in the vehicle. Basically, it cost me 30.9 cents per kilowatt hour, so quite a bit cheaper than what we paid at the Rivian. And just from what I've sampled by looking at the PlugShare app and kind of reading about that, and then, you know, different places, that this is really on the low end of the cost structure for DC fast charging. So a little bit of a risk just because one working charger, but doesn't seem to be a lot of high demand for it, and certainly the price is right. So I think this trip's gonna turn out to be quite inexpensive, but I'll check in one more time when I get home. I've got basically, it's probably gonna say 50% state of charge, 120 miles of range with 90 miles to drive. And again, I always think about that number as being a little on the high side, but got a 30-mile buffer in there. So we'll again touch base once I pull in to the house. Okay, we're back at home, and I forgot to reset the trip counter here, but you can see that the efficiency actually increased to 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour for this leg of the trip from Chattanooga back to Frankfurt. And I'm at a little bit of a loss. I think it was quite a bit less windy today than it was on the way down. I did run the AC on the way back, and the efficiency actually increased. Again, at level, fan of level 1 at a temperature of 70. So that is all very impressive. I came back with 18% state of charge with 47 miles of range, which is, again, better than I expected. And just kind of doing a recap of the total cost of the trip. So the round trip distance of the trip was 520 miles. And my total cost in this trip, and I'm just going full disclosure here, I'm able to charge. I have a level 2 charger that there's no cost at my office, and so I was able to charge up or ahead of my trip to for free. And I didn't want to charge above 90% because it's just not good to have your battery sit at 100%. So literally the day before I left, or the day of my trip rather, I charged the remaining, it was a little under 90% up to the 100% for $1.16. The Rivian fast charger was $13.30. When I got to Chattanooga, that residential level 1 charging coming back from the 11%, which I ended with the first leg with, up to back up to 100% was $7.52, and then I stopped off today at that tourism fast charger for $3.40, and I'll be able to recharge at work again for free, which is a total cost of my trip of $25.40, which gives me an average cost per mile of about 5 cents per mile. So I can say that in comparison, had I taken my other car, I did the math earlier in the video, that was about 10, based upon the current price of gas, was about 10 cents per mile. So I was able to go to and from for half the cost, and I used roughly a third of the amount of energy. So I have to say I'm very, very pleased with this experience, particularly, in this scenario. I would definitely do it again if I had the scenario where I could either charge at work or charge at home ahead of a trip, minimize my fast charging, which is more expensive, to extend my range, and then be able to recharge at residential before starting the return trip. Quite rewarding, really, and minimally, minimal headache. It was, I really didn't have any range anxiety, and it was a very positive experience. So I'm going to wrap up here and say thanks for coming along with me on this trip. Please do, if you have any questions at all or comments about this, please do add those in the YouTube comments, and do like the video if you found this useful. That really helps the channel. So again, thanks for coming along.
As always, we hope you found this content useful. If you did, please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks.